Hello, I'm Pastor Eric Elkin, the lead pastor at Advent United Methodist Church, and this is this week's call to action. Usually this call to action is in the worship service, but I wanted to take a little bit longer time to talk to you. So we're having this being separate from the worship service, but I hope you watch it and actually hope you share it as well. If you're wondering, the fire in my fireplace was started by a fire starter that I got from Ben Kearns for his Eagle Scout project. So just want you to know, thank you, Ben. I thought the most appropriate place to give a call to action as we enter 2021. Once again, I'm in my house in the midst of an unfinished work project. You are probably sick about hearing about it. I am sick of working on it, I'm sick of living in it, and I'm sick of trying to cling to the hope that someday this will be done. But someday this will be done. And I need to keep using that hope as the driving force for moving forward. This is very fitting because, you know something, we're sick of hearing about COVID, we're sick of hearing about divisiveness, we're sick of hearing about a lack of justice or equality or anything that motivates anyone to get up and riot in public. We're sick about hearing about it. We're sick about living in it. We're sick about the labor and work it takes to solve these things. But we need to remember there is a day that it will be beautiful and it will come together, but it's going to take work. One of the things that I wanted to talk about was this whole decision to worship or not to worship, another subject we're tired about hearing of. I want you to know my perspective has been totally shaped by a book my wife bought about 15 years ago. We were going on a long flight and she decided to buy a book. The first one she bought was about the Black Plague. And I'm like going, The second book she bought was called this, The Great Influenza. The Great Influenza, the story of the deadliest pandemic in history. This book was written in 2004. As you can see, it's rather extensive. The words are rather small, so it was absolutely a fascinating book. But it was also shapes our perspective when I talk about this pandemic. I didn't go and Google something. We've actually read about it. And one of the things I really want you to know is in 1918, when the pandemic hit, there were orders for churches to close. And there were orders for public places to close. But most churches willingly closed. They knew that this was a major health risk. A lot of those churches also became field hospitals because at that time, there was not the large medical system that we have now. The American medical system was still in its infancies. So those churches, a lot of those became field hospitals for the sick. What's also interesting to note, when that pandemic was done, congregations and places of worship all over the United States started raising money, and they built the American medical system that we know today. You will probably remember, if you're any 30 years or older, that you had Lutheran hospitals, Methodist hospitals, Presbyterian hospitals, Catholic hospitals, and Jewish hospitals. They were the ones, and a lot of that came as a response to the pandemic. So they know they made compromises, but after that compromise was over, big areas of transformation happen, and we need to keep our eye on that. For us as Methodists, we listen to the governor out of respect for the governor, but we really take our marching orders, so to speak, from our bishop. He is the head of the church, and he is the one that bears the legal responsibility for what we do. So when it talks about whether we meet or don't meet, we listen to our bishop and not necessarily the governor as the primary person. We at Advent United Methodist Church, and especially me, who really takes on as the lead pastor the responsibility for the emotional, physical, and spiritual health of the congregation, we have decided until it is safe and healthy to meet, that we're going to continue to look for alternatives. Now, we also know that there is a spiritual dimension to that need to get together to pray. And so when it is possible that we can do something in a safe manner, we will do it. So in this inability to meet, what do we do to become a transformational community, but to maintain our community and start to do transformational things? One of the things that I really would like to do is I would like to offer some adult education opportunities online, that we can do this through Zoom where we have a presentation and we can break out into some small group conversations. Now, I know Zoom is not ideal, but I really think that we need to find time for substantive conversations that will help us understand each other better and move forward into the coming year. When I talked to Cindy about this, Cindy's oh yeah, you know something, this is very Methodist. Methodists always bring things like, how is it with your soul? So we are going to call these small group studies soul work. And one of the first things that I would like to do is I would really like to get into the book, Talking to Strangers. It's a Malcolm Gladwell book that I've talked extensively about with people, but it's how to know the things you don't know about strangers. And I found it absolutely critical. If we're going to be two people looking at the world in different ways, we're going to be strangers to each other. So how do we understand the people that we're talking to that don't know and act and think like us? And not just talking about that in one specific demographic, but comprehensively, and looking at all the strangers in our life. So on January 17th, we're going to start a sign-up sheet. This will be 5 Monday evenings from 7 to 8:30. When you commit, you're committing to those 5 days. This is not going to be one that you can drop in on. We need to have pre-study registration for it. So we have our small group set up, and each small group has a leader. The other thing that conversation I got into this week, Tom Doran and I talked about an organization that he's involved with. It's called Treehouse. And right before we kind of got divided by COVID, we had the Treehouse people come and talk to us. And I'm really impressed with the organization. And we found out there was a number of people in the congregation who worked with Treehouse. Well, Tom is looking for a group of people that might be interested in working with Treehouse. And really what Treehouse does is they give tutoring and educational help to at-risk youth in the Egan community. There's bigger than the Egan, but the one we would work with is in the Egan community. Now, when it comes to racism and social justice, I gotta be honest with you, I don't really like to be a big marching and speech kind of person. My gift is working with people. And I think when you work with people, that's where the real transformation happens. And now this Treehouse is working with at-risk kids, trying to equip them to handle the educational challenges they are facing. And to me, education is freedom. So if you're interested in working with Treehouse, of being part of a special interest group, this is one of the gifts we have. We're an educated community. We have education and skills that we can share with at-risk kids. So if you're interested in doing that, please contact the office and we'll put you in touch with Tom Doran, or you can talk to Tom Doran directly. But I think that would be a great place for us to start to engage and equip our community and help them move forward. Thank you for taking this time to listen to me. I hope this call to action inspires you to find hope in the world and to be proactive in serving our neighbors.